got a high-powered regional conference looming.
Yeah, that's right. The Tasman region have got together and decided amongst themselves, the members themselves, they want to sort of uplift their own skill level and technical ability. So they've put on their own conference, sort of showcasing their strategy, dovetailing into what our national strategy is about empowering members to do things for members.
So you've got some pretty powerful people opening it.
Yeah,
So
we're very fortunate. Yeah, the Associate Minister for Primary Industries, Joe Goodhue, and Tom Lambie, the Chancellor of Lincoln University, are doing the opening on Saturday morning. And then there's a whole lot of workshops and speakers and a lot of work around upskilling our young members.
So isn't that neat that these members have suddenly said, hey, listen, we need to do something?
Yeah, it is good. And it's really showing a maturity rather than the last time there was regional conferences, they were much more social based. And whilst there still be social activity and there's an awards dinner on the Saturday night, the real focus is around leadership and development.
And that's major part for young farmers.
Yeah, so most people join young farmers for the social interaction and surrounding themselves with like-minded people. But you find that as people spend more time at young farmers, they want to develop themselves, and part of that is networking. So it's who you know in this world. So the more you can hobnob with captains of industry, the better off you are for your career development and your own development.
I suppose really, Terry, farming has got so advanced now. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, you did what your father did and he did what his father did. But now it's totally different. It's skills and management.
Yeah, absolutely. So, these young people are managing businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses that are multidisciplinary. So, they've got to employ people with good, you've got to have good HR skills, you've got to have health and safety knowledge, you've got to have all these managerial abilities, as well, of course, knowing how the farm works. And
you need to have the courage to experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. And technology allows you to do that too. So, the capability out there is a lot more than it was before. And I think the young people are embracing all of that. So there is a generational change of what's happening on farm. And I think the ability to work as a community around has changed quite considerably. Rather than lending a hand to put a fence up, you're now lending a hand to actually make some improvements for your water catchment or your nutrient management or any of those kind of things.
I've just been to the North Island with Seed Force, and their main story was basically, don't do what your father did and your grandfather necessarily. Have a wee play.
Yeah.
Put some fescue in instead of ryegrass and see what the stock prefer.
Yeah, and I think that's where the innovation's going to come in. People actually do need to go out and have a go at doing things differently. And I think if you've got the conviction and the courage to go out and do that, then a lot of businesses will be a lot better off, particularly in these times where there's not a lot of money out there, so you're going to have to do things differently and better.
It's the old cliche, isn't it? You have a big windscreen in a car and a very small rear vision mirror, because you need to look forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's quite right. And I've just come back from a conference in Fiji looking at the South Pacific agricultural economy and what changes can be made. And one of the big things that was highlighted is this global lack of emphasis on youth engagement. And so what we're doing here is actually quite world leading. So we're looking at how do we use our expertise and go offshore. But one of the things that we're going to do at the conference is actually really empower the young person to make decisions for themselves. And we're very lucky that we've got some good backers. A lot of local businesses have gotten behind this because I see the benefit of backing enterprising young people who want to actually make a name for themselves.
And these are the people who are taking small steps. They're not going to become part of that top 5% straight away, but they'll get there with small steps.
Yeah, that's right. And I think if we can get people to be on that pathway a lot earlier, so most people start to get involved with their community politics, and I use that in the macro sense.
Yep.
But their community involvement as they sort of evolve in their sort of late 20s, early 30s into their 40s, what we're trying to do is say, actually, you can do this now as a young person. Get yourself enmeshed into the spirit of what's going on around you and actually contribute.
Do you think we've got a sort of a blockage in a lot of cases where, especially the older people, say, no, Dad always did this?
Yes, and that happens with all generational change. That the more you've been doing something a particular way, the harder it is to change. And we're at a crossroads, I think, at the moment, particularly in the dairy sector, with all the hardship around the milk price. People are going to want to start looking at their exit strategy. So there's actually a lot of opportunity for young people at the moment to think, okay, where am I headed? What am I going to do? What do I need to do? And there's a real awareness, I think, of rather than just blindly going in and going, well, this is what Dad did, this is what I'll do, actually going, things need to change. We actually need to create a business that makes sense. So how do we make that happen? And I think having, like this Tasman Regional Conference idea of actually allowing people to start thinking freely and be educated and think, okay, I'm going to make a difference here. How do I make a difference? Who do I surround myself with? And where am I going? If you do that at a much earlier age, then the potential is enormous.
And once again, it comes back to having the courage to say, I'll have a go.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So the conference, it's in Christchurch?
Yep, it's at the Ridges Hotel. So what we've done is really encouraged all of the members of the Tasman region to come along. And I know on the Saturday night we've got about 160 people coming along to the dinner, which is great. So this is the first one. A lot of people are sort of standing back to say, okay, let's just see how this goes.
Yeah, they will.
And next year we're in boots and all. And that's sponsors and supporters and speakers as well as members wanting to get in.
So that goes back to that fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Totally.
Not wanting to try it just in case.
Yeah.
Going back to Fiji, that's an interesting one. Thank God you got out.
Yeah, managed to get the last flight out on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not pretty there. I spoke to some people yesterday, and massive crop and stock loss as you'd expect from a weather event like that. And the good thing is that they've got a lot of backing now. Since they've had their elections a couple of years ago, the Fiji economy is being supported a lot by aid programs from a number of countries like New Zealand, but a lot of investments coming in from the EU. So they'll be able to rebuild, there's no doubt about it. They've got a desire to become a lot more self-sufficient in their agriculture. So things like they produce about 12 to 15% of their own milk. There actually is capacity to supply all of their milk requirements over time. There's plenty of land for agriculture. There's a bit of a bureaucratic nightmare in terms of getting leases to people, but they want young people to start creating businesses. So there's leases available at very cheap prices for motivated young people to get in. So we've just got to help them with a process that allows people to become excited about agriculture. And like every other country, agriculture is not sexy enough for the young people that want to work in Suva or Lautoka, but there's got to be a message and a change of attitude.
Exactly. My understanding is that Fiji is made up of a huge amount of very small holdings.
Yeah, and the majority of agriculture is subsistence farming. And they can actually make reasonable livings. Even if you have 10 or 12 cows, you can still make a living for your family. What the desire, I think, is to get people to work beyond subsistence, actually have better systems involved. But they're up against it. I mean, it's hot, grass doesn't grow particularly well. The grass is very fibrous.
That type of grass doesn't.
Yeah, no.
It could be, talk to Seed Force, they'll have a grass that will grow there, it's simple as that.
Yeah, and better genetics with their cows. I mean, they're milking Brahman cows, which aren't known for milk. It's because Frisians don't cope with 35 degrees and 99% humidity. So there's going to be a lot of things that need to change. But I think there is a desire, certainly from a government point of view in Fiji, to make agriculture work.